Somebody has a fan or something running at the background.
Yeah,
We
I
are
have.
online.
It sounds like a big fan.
Okay.
ठीक है.
Cool.
So
So we are
you guys
live,
be
guys.
mute. Yeah.
It's
Be
like
mute
behind the
जब
scene.
चलेगा.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yash, we're live.
sure. So, good afternoon, everybody. A very warm welcome to this session. So, I have Jagriti, co-founder of Design Jungle and UX Gorilla, and Amber Krishan. Today's session is all about crafting digital experiences using experience narratives. So this technique has been mastered and developed by Amber himself, and and it's uh, the thing that I can speak about this technique is it's not just building screens using UI components, but it's also thinking like a movie director, where you are actually framing multiple sequences in an experience so that you can drive value for both consumers as well as the businesses. So before we start the session, I would like to briefly talk about Amber's background as well. So Amber is a visionary and co-founder at Dem. It's a product innovation, design and development company. So in his role, Amber sets the strategic direction of the business globally, mentor direct designers, create new offerings and processes, and lead client relationships and projects. He works with clients to drive business results, envision and build new product offerings, launch new ventures, and manage product experience operations. Before founding them, AK Amber Krishan helped PayU India and HFI India set up and manage their UX design operations. He frequently mentors other companies and startups. So he has also taught at Parsons School of Design, New York, and School of Design and Innovation, Mumbai. And he has personally delivered 150 plus design and innovation programs across the world. So over to you, Amber.
Thanks for that, Yash. So for everybody else on the call, I don't get to see the videos. That's a question to you, Yash.
So you would be able to see it, like you will be presenting, so you would be seeing it on the other screen as well. So so it's a live thing. We don't have videos available here.
Okay. And if I ask questions, how can they reply back?
We have the comments somewhere. People will be responding there, and we'll pick up if there's anybody that if there's anything that you want to talk about, like in the comment, we can take that up.
Sounds very good. Sounds good. All right, guys. Thanks for clarifying that. All right, everybody. Hope you guys are having a fantastic Saturday. And this is a great use of your weekend time in learning something and pulling your brain in the right direction. So let's talk about that.
So Amma, you can share your screen, and I'll add it to the stream.
Yeah, just give 1 second. You guys can see it?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. Yeah. And the comments which come in, I'll be able to see this on the other device.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, crafting experiences are not just UI. Why is this important? Because the reason why this became exponentially important was I've been leading teams of all shapes and sizes in different companies across my career and now my own company as well. And besides being able to use the software, besides being able to create the artifacts required to produce the whole thing, the most important thing is being able to win with clients and help them achieve business success. And somewhere along the way, I was not able to see a very clear correlation between designers and teams being able to put teams together and be able to create fantastic business success. So let me start this with a bit of a story and give you guys some context. The context is you guys are at a point in time where it's great to be a designer. From 2008 onwards, there has been a lot of focus in doing design work by companies because they saw tremendous success in great UX, great design, and how financially these companies actually did great. Which laid the grounds for what we call the experience economy, where companies realized that the primary differentiator for them was the experiences they built, why their company will win over the next one, or why people will adopt more things, why something will go viral. All of that was highly dependent on, just give 1 second, highly dependent on the ability of being able to build fantastic experiences. You know, I hope you guys have heard about this because this is what our era is called. It's called the experience economy. Sometimes it's called the disruption economy as well. And the disruption economy talks about the nature of companies. You know, in 6 months, a company can rise and they can be actually closed down because that's the extent of disruption which goes through. Now, in this context of disruption economy, like I said, companies have realized that they've invested in design, they actually do this work very well, they can differentiate, they can do better. And it's a fantastic time to be a designer as well, right? Which is why we're having these conversations, a lot more many presentations and conferences and focus on design learning, which is fantastic. You know, I could not be happier. I could not be happier seeing so much of focus in the industry in doing this. With so many people wanting to be consummate designers, especially consummate experience designers, there is one clear question that needs to be asked. How do we build successful experiences? Yeah. The way we will be doing this session, guys, this 2-hour session is, I want you guys to share your thoughts, share your questions, so that it's interactive in nature. It's not just one-way monologue from your side. I would love to hear what you guys think, and then we can have a conversation around that. So, what do you guys think? It's a great time to be designers. All of us want to build successful experiences. What does it take?
So, Amber, your question is that how, in your opinion, we can build successful products? Is it?
Successful experiences. How do you go about building?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's
Yes.
it's in your view? So now folks can write in the chat over there and give their opinions,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
All right,
they
guys.
can.
What do you guys think? Go for it.
So I think, Amber, right now people are still warming up to the
Okay.
presentation, and they would actually eventually they will start typing in. So some of them might be feeling shy, which there's no need to be, but I think we can go ahead and hopefully we'll have more responses. But yeah, would love to
Sure.
know from you, Amber. Yes.
Absolutely. So the whole session is going to be about that, guys, of course. But the only way you're going to get value from this if you will interact,
Yes.
if you'll ask questions, if you'll have takeaways, then it'll be great 2 hours. So try and do that. And there's nothing called a right or wrong question, right or wrong answers.
Exactly.
There's been no judgment passed on you in that context. So I don't want you guys to feel like that. Feel free and ask questions. And of course, unless you haven't figured out how to use the chat on the right hand side.
So we have actually one response. It's Sheetal says it's understanding what customers actually need.
Very good. It's understanding what customers actually need. Very good. What else? Other thoughts, guys?
Yash, so let's start with you actually. In the meantime, when people are like responding, what do you think about this question?
So, building great experiences, I think, are micro moments of emotions that you deliver.
Yeah.
Uh, so, so the emotional part of the human needs to be considered, and then you stitch together. I think multiple technology or maybe design to create
Hmm.
that emotions in shorter periods of time, and then you drive value to both customers as well as businesses. That's my understanding. I think of it more as a emotional, like a philosophy from an emotional point of view for humans while building
Hmm.
experiences, agnostic of the fact that which modality you are using. So that's my
Yeah.
opinion.
Wow, that's
So we have
amazing.
one more response from Ashish as well.
Yeah, Ashish says a good user experience is one that meets a particular user's need in the specified context where he or she uses the product. That's cool. Yeah,
Very interesting. Very interesting.
yeah. So I really like
Okay.
the part where he mentions the specified context. I think that's the definition of in the usability as well. That's what we talk about. There's another response. There are a few more responses. Ankit says, is
Okay.
India going to be an
I'll come back.
experimental ground or implementation ground too? So yeah, that's interesting, Ankit. Probably we'll come to this. If this is the question, we'll come to this part.
So Amber, you have to switch to the comment section, the private chat. No, the comment section, you can see it. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
Or
okay.
or I'm pinning it like I pin these to the screen. So Ramandeep says by considering for all the possible scenarios. That's how you create like
Okay,
experiences. Yeah.
okay. So we'll
Yes. So
talk
here,
about it.
let's hear from you, Amber. Like, what do you think?
Sure. All right, guys. Thank you for your responses. I really appreciate you guys chiming in. So, very typically in the industry, when people say, "How do we go about crafting successful experiences?" Uh, sometimes people say, "You know what?" And this is a real world. What happens in companies is quite often they actually go look at some competitor, the competitor or some other reference app, and say, "Go look at that. Look at what Facebook is doing, what Cred is doing, or what this person is doing," and then you get something from there. Sometimes it's what's possible in XT or Figma, what UI kit you can use and what you can build with that regard. That is what is modeled out as the end experience. Sometimes it is all about focusing on numbers and then guessing uh, what the problem might be and try and fix that. This is a very common methodology in product companies where you sit in a nice AC room and you look at clever tap numbers and you say, "Oh, numbers are going up and down. It may be because of this. Let's try some experiments and do things around that." Or companies say, "You know what, let's just do some design thinking and come up with some interesting ideas and see what we can do around that." This always amuses me because you get about 5 6 people in a room together and they say, "You know what, start doing empathy right now." Desi- Design doesn't work like that. It's if it was that easy, uh, hats off to Stanford. So another very key perspective, and some of you guys are chiming in about that as well. It's all about being user centric. I've heard
Yeah.
this word for almost 10 12 years, and all I get to hear is about being user centric, about user centric design is about user centric, being user friendly, uh, being friends with users, whatever that means. What is user centric? Where did this obsession from user centric come from, and is this the right approach? Is it about time we actually even question this approach in terms of what it takes for companies to be successful? So user centric as an obsession came from World War time. So in World War time, uh, there was an incident where when the enemy planes were coming in a specific situation, and they were going to drop bombs on the British airfields. The British pilots were scrambling. The term is called scrambling. They were scrambling to get into whatever plane they could to go and fight off the German bombers. And for some reason, there were a lot of accidents, a lot of plane crashes for the British airplanes, but not due to the German bombs hitting them or because of fighting with the German planes. They were accidents or crashes which happened because of something called human error. I'm sure you heard of this term where a lot of times you attribute things to human error. And they said, let's do some study, let's invest some money and understand why this human error is happening. So they conducted studies around this, and they found out that the way the controls were designed, the way the dials were placed, these were causing a lot of confusions with these pilots. Sometimes they were confusing the landing gear control with the control of the flaps. Sometimes the layout of um, the key controls you have to see to know where the aircraft is and at what altitude, etc., was different in every single craft. So a lot of these things were causing confusion, and this started a lot of focus on something called ergonomics. That we have to understand how to design for human comfort such that we prevent such accidents, and pretty much build and design all products for the purpose of human comfort. And we started the obsession with design science at that point of time. And design science even percolated down to computers when there was the big, the web boom which happened, and there was a lot of focus on building websites and stuff, and then there's a lot of boom which happened at that time. And design science was related to that, and the field of HCI, human computer interaction, became really front and center. A lot of work was done in Xerox PARC in the early days in regards to human computer interaction, and then a lot of institutes were formed as well. So the lot of belief was focus on science. You focus on science, you will get it right. Yeah. So some of the examples I wanted to show you guys. Look at this example. If you read the text on top and then read the text on below, which of these texts do you think is faster to read? The one on the top or the one below? All right. What do you guys get? The text on the top or the text below?
This is a
Or
question
maybe,
for all of you guys.
yeah. And maybe, Jakriti, you can give me a sense about who's responding how.
So Tarun says lower, the lower letter form, that's easy to read. Ashish says the top one. Nidhi says below. So till now, I think, including me, actually, it's the one in the below. That's what I would say is more readable, and people are also responding more to the one below.
Got it. So you guys are correct that the bottom piece of text is faster to read. But the question to you is, do you know why? Any guesses?
Yeah, so I think Tarun, Nidhi, Abhishek, maybe you guys can probably take a guess. Why is it that this one seems easy to read than the one on the top? Or maybe Ashish can talk about why he thinks that the one on the top is easy to read. Okay, so Ramandeep says it's the character size. Ramandeep thinks it's the um, lower one. Sheetal says it's the familiarity because of which it seems easy to read. And Ankit says it's the standard format. Like I think probably like that's the mental model that I'm using the word mental model. He says standard format, but this is what we've come to accept as a universal thing. Um, Sharat says it's easy for our brain to process. Tarun mentions that we scan rather than we read, and it's easy to scan the one on the bottom. And Nidhi has explained it as more breathable spaces in between due to difference in height. And
Okay.
Abhishek says because of font type. Yeah.
So some of you guys are getting close, right? So I think Tarun mentioned something that it's because of the shape of the character. So the scanning for the eye is easier when the character shapes are differentiated,
Okay.
right? Which means if they have the things which are coming on a top, ascenders or descenders, if they're coming on the character, those things allow us to recognize the characters much faster. Whereas in the capital text, because everything looks like a very blockish, it's harder
Hmm.
for us to differentiate one character from the other, which makes scanning harder, and then readability is slower. That's the reason how this works. Okay. So interesting piece of science for you guys. Another one. Find me the number for Abraham Edwards.
Is there really an Abraham here? Amar? Can't really find it out.
Let's see.
Oh yeah.
So it takes a
It's
while,
when I
right, guys? It
actually,
takes a,
yeah. It's when I actually
okay.
thought it might be a trick question, is when I actually figured it out because I was anticipating it's a trick question. But otherwise, no, I was not actually able to figure it out. So, yes, guys, is anyone here able to find out this number at 10? Yeah.
Okay, try now. See if it's easier now.
Hmm.
Yeah, this makes it much
Yeah.
easier, right?
Right.
So there's a tons of design science there which can be applied to make experiences, and it's great to know that. And there was an era where primarily there was a lot of focus in human computer interaction around making things usable, getting the science right as well. Focus on the usability aspect of things, focus on even the persuasion engineering aspect of things, how the brain works, how the eyes work, how memory works, how cognition works, how our motor ability works, all those different things. There's a lot of focus on those things as well. But the question is, so if we just apply design science, does that ensure successful experiences? Can I apply my understanding of these fields and then automatically the experience is going to be successful? Thoughts about that, guys?
Okay, so Amar, I would like to pitch in here. While I would always say, like, yeah, please mention it in the comments, but I like to pitch in here. So I think, of course, like these things are valuable and they are applied. In fact, thanks to the amazing work done by NN, like NN Group, since then they've actually made it really easy, and the HFI, of course, that it became accessible. Otherwise, these things were not like really possible. But it's just um, these things, they take their own sweet time to get out in the public domain, but now things are happening so fast that just like it's happening at light speed. So like these things, like they don't really um they're not the only thing that will define the success. There are so many things that are happening so much, like so early in the lives of the people, and it just takes moments to disrupt the entire thing. For example, when COVID happened, everything that we knew about how experiences are created or how people interact with technology, it all changed in a moment's time, right? So I think it, of course, science does make it happen, but sometimes it's there is always an unpredictability that we have to kind of find our way around. So that's what I feel like, it's just not the science. There has to be a method to your madness. There's a madness as well.
Okay. Other thoughts?
Tarun says yes to some extent. Um, okay, let's hear from you, Amber.
Yeah. So, guys, for a very long period of time, there was a lot of focus on just applying science on top of uh, digital experiences and assuming that it will make things better. This was the era of usability, that if you reduce number of clicks, if you make it easy to visually scan, if the visual hierarchy is appropriate, if the color utilization is done the correct way, then automatically it will be more usable. And if something is more usable, it will be more successful, which was true for a significant period of time. The differentiation between softwares was usability. If a software was more usable than the other one, then people did adopt that more. It was there. But things have changed. You don't necessarily take up one service versus the other because of usability, because almost everything is coming to the similar level of usable ability. And the reason for that is you have design systems available, you have UI kits available, you have material design and multiple things available where they have cracked the basic design science right. If you use these components in the right way which they've prescribed, you tend to get most of the design science right, because the fundamentals are right, the Fritz law is right, the target size is right, the visual hierarchy is right. So a lot of those things are actually fundamentally there. Of course, some of the things you have to do in a customized fashion. A lot of things are ready-made available to you guys, which was never the case. Where there was a time where everything has to be custom, which means the entire ability of the usability practitioners, as we were called at that time, was at stake. If you knew how to do this, you knew the design science, that was the most important thing, because you didn't have anything else ready-made around that. But the era has changed. You have a lot of these things ready-made available to you. Okay, so this is not the only thing. What about this? So a lot of people say, you know what, if you want to get things right, you have to conduct user research and you have to go and find pain points. So let's go do user research and find pain point, and we should solve those. So if you get all the pain points, would you be able to build successful experiences?
So maybe it can give us some ideas about the things, the features that could be present in a product, but the success, I think the conviction that it would be successful or not is not, it cannot back it up. That's my point of view. Anything that you would like to add, Jagrati? Ma'am, you are on mute.
I think with humans, what we say versus what we do is widely different. So when we say go talk to the users, and when users are reporting something, that's very that's a two-edged sword, where you think that a work is being done and you're actually uncovering pain or you're actually uncovering issues, but it might be that they are just saying something which they think they need, or they are recalling something. It's not the real thing, right? So again, that also depends, like what kind of research it is that you're doing. Are you just asking them, or are you showing and asking, or are you observing them? Then that's become a totally different sort of, decisions that you have to take. So what is the research methodology? That is where it becomes really important, because sometimes it's more than the asking. It's more in the observation that you get a lot of answers. So it's not always that it's going to help. It has to be triangulated with other forms of, if you are relying on data, there has to be other forms of data as well. That's what I feel. We have Tarun. Tarun here says that it may help us to get some, like, it may help us to get some point to start with. Like we can start from there, and maybe then we can move on to better ways of doing it, building better experiences.
Okay. So let me talk about it, guys. There's a lot of obsession in the product world on pain points and problems. You know, product managers or UX designers are often told, go find out the pain points that we can solve. Go figure out what's the problems for the users. The question you have to ask yourself is, are we really problem solvers? And I've seen this across programs, especially UX programs, where you ask to write the problem statement. You are asked to come up with a list of pain points that you're solving. Are you sure that you're supposed to be a problem solver? Their only task is to actually solve people's problems, and we are there for the good of the world, and we are improving it one problem at a time. That's what we do. Are you sure about that? So I'll leave that thought with you guys. It's a bit of a philosophical question for you. Think about that. I will not get down to getting you to type on chats right now. So think about that. So this entire structure around user centricity is about learn the science and apply that. Understand users, get pain points, write problem statements, and then largely what we do, we are problem solvers. Right? And what I want to do in this presentation today, guys, is to shift your perspective towards what is the nature of our work. Is the nature of our work problem solvers, or is the nature of our work something else? So we'll talk about that. So we talked about what does it take to build successful experiences. There's a lot of focus on building fantastic UI as well. Beautiful looking screens, a lot of amazing visual work that you see on Dribble, that becomes inspiration. And somewhere along the way, in the companies and designers start believing that good looking is equal to good UX. Is there a correlation between aesthetics and good UX? What do you guys think?
So is the question number that is good UX, is good UI good UX, or is good looking good UX? That's the question.
Yeah. Is there an association between the aesthetics and good UX?
Hmm. That's a very interesting question. Yes, guys, what do you think? Okay, we have Tarun who says, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
Karthik says, yes, absolutely. Desirability is one of the main factor when it comes to UX.
Okay. Let's run with that, guys. So the point I'm trying to make over here is, guys, the focus on aesthetics is not equal to good UX. How you make something look is very contextual. It depends on your strategy. Sometimes you can make things look bad to achieve your end objective.
Yeah.
For example, how many of you guys might be smokers? Have you seen what they're doing on the cigarette packets? They're putting visceral displeasing images on the cigarette packet to influence you to not actually smoke. So there is not never a one-to-one relationship like this. For some reason, great visual aesthetics is always associated with UX in companies, partially because companies have no idea what UX is, and then practitioners, because they've always been requested by the executives to make things look better and better, have gone into a spiral for making UX in this fashion. I wrote an article a while back, guys, on this, how UI is actually becoming a commodity skill. Whenever you get time, just go read about that, and I'll talk a bit about this in this context as well. But it could be interesting thing how UI work will largely change and why not. Now, let's imagine that you build screens, and typically this is how we do work. We build individual screens, and then we stitch them together, and we say this is the flow and this is UX around there. So here's a OTP screen, and then there's some other screen, and then you ask for some first name, last name, and then you show them some dashboard and something else. That's how things come together. Is that a good way for building experiences? As this happens to be the most typical way that we provide our assets, etc., to developers to start building it. Is this a good way to build experiences?
So Srishti here says, no, it's not. Good UX is good experience is partly how it looks, but more is emphasized on how it works. UI can be really attractive. If it is not solving problem, it's a waste. Um, Gaurav here says an aesthetically pleasing design creates a positive response in people's brain and lead them to believe the design actually works better.
All right. So I'm going to challenge you guys on all these concepts.
Amber, are you there?
Partly how it looks, but more emphasis on how it works. You can really at it solving a problem. So, Srishti, can you hear me?
Yes, we lost you for a moment, Amber.
Okay. So point for you, Srishti. Think about it. Are we always solving a problem? And I'll talk more about this during the session. But think about it. Are we always solving a problem? Gaurav, for you, aesthetic pleasing design gets a positive response. Are you looking for a positive response or are you looking for a specific outcome? Think about that thought for you. Rishi says many of companies also redesign their product to increase product price because it produces premium feeling in customer mind. Yes, they do. They do. If in that particular industry and if in that particular context, that is what is going to create value. So it highly depends. It cannot be a blanket generic understanding that good looking is actually going to work. So let's get past that the aesthetic question. Aesthetics is also contextual, very, very contextual. Sometimes you have to make people feel alarmed. There was a time I was building software for Qatar Airways, and you had to keep people in a state of higher stimulation and higher alert because the operation controller who manage all the flights flying across the world, they need to be alert enough to be able to process if something is going wrong. uh, for them, aesthetics is something else. You have to use colors, etc., to raise specific alert centers in the brain. That's how it works. So it's something else. In other places, you can make the aesthetics displeasing. You can scare them. You can have negative visceral response, like the cigarette packet thing that I told you as well, because of the specific outcome that you want. Now let's talk about the second part, which I said. The second part is in UI, very often we just stitch screens together. We say one screen, next, say put screens together. Unfortunately, this discipline is becoming about stitching screens together and how we make different kind of product cases, error cases, happy flows, alternate cases, and how you stitch screens together. Is this the best way to achieve success? Because this is how digital design has completely become locked in. And unfortunately, this is a lot to do with XD, Figma, these softwares and their fault because they made us visualize experiences always in screens in sequence like this. My question to you is this how people experience everything? How do you experience this moment? Is it screen by screen by screen by screen? Is that how you experience things? Gaurav, Rishi, Shishti, what do you guys think? Adidev, Nidhi, Karthik. Modern engineering. What do you mean by that, Ankit? What is modern engineering to you? Okay. So anyway, while the comments are coming in, so let me give you the context again. See, while we build experiences, we cannot be constrained by software. If a Figma and an XD think of experiences in a certain way, and that's how they visualize it, they have that can have the capacity of narrowing down how we look at building things. So we have to go beyond that. We have to really understand what experience actually means. Karthik says it's a part of the digital experience. Can you please repeat the question? Yes, I do understand that we are restricted by softwares. Yes. The question is the construct of great experiences just about stitching screens together? One screen, then stitch another, and another, and then you build all these alternate cases, etc. Is that the only way we should think about building digital design? Very good. Tarun says, no, it's not limited screen only. Why? No, so Karthik says, no, it's not because it's all about before and after. Okay. She says, I think we are always solving problems, whether it's UI related or UX. There are lots about other factors that help the user. Okay. So keep this question in mind, guys. I'll of course give you an understanding of this as you go forward. It's a question in mind. We're working with softwares which make us feel that we are stitching screens together. And somehow over time, we started visualizing how we design in this fashion. We have also become very hooked with associating good aesthetics to good UX because of the way the industry has been working with us as well. What else? It's also important to understand that the industry is changing largely. Jagdi, can you just go on mute, please? There's a lot of background sound coming from your side. So there's a lot of tools which are coming up. There's a lot of focus on AI, etc., by Google and companies where they're trying to figure out how to construct UI real time without requiring UI designers because they need that kind of personalization and they need to rapidly change things to engage people. And you will be seeing this come in the next few years. In fact, Abhinav Kaushik, I'd met him a while back. He's actually doing work in this area that why do we need actually UI designers? Why can't we just build this on the fly? And a strong belief in the industry over time that we won't need UI sweatshops. A lot of designers are sitting together and stitching and making screens. That's going to go away not too far out. So the obsession with the UI aesthetics and the obsession of just stitching screens together as building great experiences is going to get a hit. It's already getting hit because that's not the pure value and that's not how you build successful experiences. So how do we start doing that? So I'm going to start introducing some concepts now, guys, about how do you approach crafting these experiences. So one of them is KDBs instead of KPIs. So very often when we have to create great experiences, the success of the experience is associated to a KPI. If you guys don't know what a KPI is either a key performance metric, okay, or key performance indicator that a business cares about, that they want the revenue to go up, or they want the transactions to go up, or they want lesser people doing something else. A KPI is set up in that context. We'll talk about what KDBs are. Now, before we get into KDBs, I want you guys to understand that we are not in the business of solving problems. We are not in the business of pleasing users by going to user research and asking them what they want. We are in the business of influencing behavior to make people do things. A business metric KPI is only going to go up and down if you make the user do something. Now, you may or may not be solving a problem. You may actually be influencing them to do a certain task, whether it's a transaction task or a sign up with you or advocate your brand to somebody else, because that is in the business interest. And I want you guys to start thinking of yourself closer to behavioral scientists as opposed to problem solvers. Because in many cases, you will realize you're actually not solving any problem whatsoever. The problem does not exist. What you're considering a problem is maybe a need you're generating, or you're influencing the user's behavior to make them do things. For example, banking. Banking is a perfect example. Do users want to spend all the time, going in the net banking portal and then signing up for a loan, or giving them money for a fixed deposit, or getting a credit card? No, the motivation is very low. Now we might say, oh, we are solving a problem by doing this. You're not really solving a problem. You're influencing the behavior to make them get a loan, to make them deposit their money, to make them get a credit card, to make them stop calling your customer care so much. And those are the superpowers for UX designers. UX designers have the power through design, through understanding of psychology, to be able to influence behaviors and then making business successful. And this will only happen if you are able to understand the correlation between what the business wants to achieve and what behavior you need to make happen. And KDB stands for key desired behaviors. Let me give an example, guys. Shopping cart. Very well known example, because most e commerce businesses have a tough time introducing drop offs on this page. Yeah. For a shopping cart, what does the business want to achieve? For a shopping cart, what does the business want to achieve?
Guys, you can go ahead and type your answers if you think it's increase of transaction, more profit, anything that the business is trying to achieve.
Sales, profit, ROI. Okay. So they want more sales. Sure. Other folk. Other thoughts, guys? Sales and retention. Okay. Very good. Higher conversion, lower drop offs lead to more profit. Very good. So in your answer, Amandeep, you've got two types of metrics. So we'll talk about that. Okay, let me continue. So, in order for you to get your KDBs right, you have to very crisply be able to distinguish between a business metric and a product metric and a KDB at the end of it. So, a business metric with a shopping cart, which is very much towards how much either the revenue they want to achieve in that or how much sales they want to achieve in that context. And because they want to achieve X amount of sales in that context, then in correlation comes what the product metric should be in that context. For more sales, what should happen in the product? So can you guys help with that? For more sales, what should happen in the product? So one of the most common things, and I'll give you an example, it's drop-offs. Carts, shopping carts are known as case studies for drop-offs. What else? User intention may be a long-term thing. I'm only talking about in the context of someone looking at a shopping cart and then transacting through it. So in the product, maybe reduce drop-offs is one key. Anything else? Trust and credibility. Okay. So trust and credibility, Nidhi, would start coming more towards now the user side, or what we want to have happen with the user. What the business wants to achieve, what the product metric should be, and the next thing which comes is what will happen on the user side. We'll talk about that also. Product should see an increase in conversion rate. Okay. All right. So something like that. We'll not get into the specifics of it. Now, once we know that we want more sales to happen, we want less people to drop off, etc. over there, then what do you want the users to do for that to happen? Which means, what are your key desired behaviors as a business? Okay, so back to you guys. What are the key desired behaviors in this context? So a key desired behavior sounds a bit like this. It sounds like the user should do this or the user should do that is a key desired behavior. Very good, Karthik. The first is the users or customers should complete the transaction. Now, the fear of missing out is more of what you would apply maybe as a psychology principle. That's not a behavior per se. What is a desired behavior from a business? When Jio was selling their free internet SIM, they wanted people to line up like nobody's business outside their stores, which happened. So what should happen? This is your imagination. Nothing else? Only customers should complete the transaction? Nothing else? So I can give you some that come to my mind, guys. So customers should recommend our product to family friends. Yeah, maybe that. Or one of the ones which is very painful, customers should stop removing products from their cart once they've added to them. Wouldn't you as a business want that? Everybody comes to the shopping cart and then removes the products. Don't want this, don't want this. Oh, that's too expensive. They remove stuff like that. No. Other way, I want customers to feel less bad about how much money they're spending with me. Wouldn't you want that? So customers should again come again, Nidhi, is something in the future. Solve only in the context of the shopping cart right now. There are many, many behaviors in the context of the shopping cart which you need to account for. Shopping carts are far more complex than you think they are. You want people to transact without blinking. You want them to stop removing products. You want them to feel less bad about the money they're spending. You want them to feel fantastic about buying stuff from you, that they are getting great deals, so that their brand resonance is very good with you. They feel very good about your brand. You want customers to feel less ambiguous. You want customers to feel less confused. A lot of people come in the shopping cart and feel very confused and say, okay, you know what, I've had 20 things. I'm not too sure I want to buy this. I'm not too sure. You want them to feel less confused? Yeah, customers should feel confident about their purchase. Very good. So Rishi says customers should add more products from the wish list. Very good. Because you have the wish list in the side as well. That could be desired behavior, that you want them to add products on the wish list to cart and buy that also. Or either from wish list or customers should add associated products to their cart. Sometimes you show recommended products as well in the cart, right? Why don't you get this as well? They should add that. So there's so many complex key desired behaviors you want to happen. Because if those things happen, then some bunch of product metrics will happen. If those product metrics will happen, then your main business metric will happen. So you see the correlation as you go up, key desired behaviors to your product metrics and to your business metrics. And then you as behavioral scientists are going to aim towards how do you make these key desired behaviors happen. Yeah, customers should feel optimistic and confident what they hold in the cart. Yeah, very good. Rishi says, clearing the doubts during purchase. And what is replacement guarantee? Well, see, that is again what you want to do from a product point of view. That's not a desired behavior. So you want people to feel confident, or you want people to trust you. Those are things you want from the user. This is your expectation from the user. So articulating very clear key desired behavior is very powerful, guys, because then you know what you're building for. If your design makes these desired behaviors happen, automatically they can increase the chances for business success. Okay. All right, let's go forward. We've got a bunch of responses. We can continue. So with the key desired behaviors in hand, how do we go about crafting experience narratives? Now, instead of saying user experience or UI experience, or why the word narratives? Narrative is very important, guys, because human beings actually comprehend their entire world and everything in the context of narratives. Story form. Our brain tends to make sense of the world in story form. their protagonist, antagonist, what's happening in that context, they tend to make sense. And narratives is a powerful way to imagine and create experiences and be able to achieve some KDBs. Before we get down to crafting the experience, it's important to understand what an experience to somebody is. So when you say what an experience is, often we think about what they encountered or a story they heard, but as an assimilation of actually what an experience is, it is nothing but a series of sensations which are happening in the brain, which in a sequence tell a narrative or a story to the user. A series of sensations. When you watch a movie, you get this series of sensations. When you go to a shopping mall, you have a series of sensations. When you interact with an app or any digital experience, you have a series of sensations. You always experience the world in this series of sensations, which, how and when makes sense to you, have the ability of influencing your behavior. That's the crux of what experience is. So now, if we want to craft an experience, which is a series of sensations, we have to stop looking at them first as a bunch of UI screens that you're stitching together. You have to first come up with a strategy of how you will imagine this experience, and automatically this experience will achieve your key desired behavior at the end. Try and think of it like building a movie. So building a movie is an amazing craft, right? The director imagines every single frame and how the frame is composed and how that frame transforms into the next frame, and how the story is told, how you create emotional effects in the audience, how do you make them cry at some point, how do you make them feel really happy, how at the end either you want them to have an amazing takeaway at the end of the movie as epiphany, wow, I never thought about that, or at the end you want them to have happy feeling that, you know what, the villain killed the hero killed the villain and everybody went home very happy. All these are designed experiences. You know, the cinema is amazing to see because it's actually a design experience and flow. It's a series of sensations which are going off in your brain, and then you're experiencing this. When you look at building digital software experiences in today's world, is pretty much like that, because quite often you're trying to achieve an end outcome. You're trying to make them feel things. And the closest way of doing that is building this in narrative form and thinking about how that fits together. Do you guys watch Rajnikant films? Or ever seen one? Rajnikant fans, any?
Watched Robot.
You watch Robot.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Nobody else has ever seen a Rajnikant film. Come on. Everyone's lying on the call. Yes.
Okay.
So, guys, what's so amazing about this film is that, a lot of the things which are happening in that film are absolutely physically are impossible. There's one film, I forgot the scene which I saw, where he's a police officer, and then uh, he throws one gun up in the air, and I think he shoots that gun's trigger with another gun from his other pocket, and then that gun in the air fires a bullet and then hits the villain, the one in the air. Stuff like that. And we watch this and we love it. Like, what amazing stuff around there, and crazy imagination going. Yeah. Of course, my objective is not to sell you Rajnikant films. If missed out on this, do take a chance to watch one of them. But the idea is that how all those sequences are threaded together to get high points and low points and all kinds of emotions for that amazing fandom which is there for Rajnikant. People are absolutely crazy. He's an actor, but along with an actor, there is the directors who work with them and have crafted that entire experience that people are absolutely insane about it. And that's what you would like for your products as well. You would like for something like that to happen. How should we do that? Yeah. So of course, you need to have what you want to achieve. You need to be clear about your business metrics. You need to care about your product metrics. You need to be clear about your KDBs. And then with that KDBs, before you open your laptop, forget before you make screens, before you even open your laptop, even sometimes even before you take a piece of paper and pen, you have to learn how to model real world interactions. You have to understand everything that we have, these screens, uh, mobile phone screens, etc., are artificial interactions. Our brains and our bodies are designed primarily to interact with each other. We are social animals. A majority of our brain is dedicated towards understanding faces and interacting and doing all that stuff. And that's how we comprehend the world. That's the most natural way for us to actually do things. So modeling a real world conversation in which you try and see how your experience should flow is the first part of the game. And this is a lot to do with what your KDB would be. So let's take an example of a shopping cart. And maybe Yash, you can play this game with me.
Sure.
Yeah. So let's imagine that I am the customer. Yash, you are the shopping cart UI. Okay. I'm the customer. You are the shopping cart UI. Help me do my shopping in a way that the KDB is achieved.
Okay.
Okay, and we can pick any one KDB for now.
Okay.
Let's imagine that you want me to feel really good about the purchase I'm about to make.
Sure.
Okay, so human to human. Okay, maybe take a minute to prepare. So Yash has done this multiple times, guys, before, so which is why he knows how this is done. So we'll do a bit of demo for you.
So hi Amber. Uh,
Hi,
Congratulations on
Yash.
saving. Uh, it's a great day. Congratulations on saving 7,000 rupees on your purchase, and you're
Oh
actually
wow!
getting free delivery as well.
Oh wow.
So, just you just have to give me your credit card details, and we'll ship it to you in a minute.
Should I do it right now or I can do it a little while later?
If you do it right now, we are giving you free deliveries. If you do it later, you might the prices may go up as well. It's actually our exclusive sale, and you want to save as much as you can.
But it looks like that I picked on too many items.
But if you look at it, the amount you would have ideally spent, you've actually spent 50% less than this. That's actually a great deal. You've got some really amazing clothes for your entire year. Some great, the most latest and the trendy ones would be in your wardrobe that you can wear it to anywhere and any place that is possible. So you should be lucky enough. You should be feeling really great about the purchase that you're going to make. It's a win-win
Very
deal.
good.
It's always a win-win deal.
All right, Yash, I'm convinced I'm going to buy this. Now,
Yeah.
buy.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So, of course, Yash, you have a great career in selling clothes. So, you are set. So, the point is, it's a human to human conversation. Right? And this is how people understand things. But the moment we start designing a UI, we completely forget this. We say, take a UI kit component and we slap it there and put it together. In the sequence and the way you want to communicate and tell something to somebody, how you want to sell a concept to somebody, it's not there. It's completely missing. And one of the examples I'll give you. So, when I showed you guys this interface, it looks nice, nicely laid out, nice components. The stakeholder, the client that you're working with will definitely clap for you. But is it making the same sense? So maybe close your eyes for 1 minute and not look at the screen and just hear me flow through this page and how the user might experience this. Yeah, I'm just checking to see everyone's closing their eyes. And nobody's closing their eyes. So Jagriti and Yash, you are the only people I can see. So I'm assuming if your eyes are open, nobody else is closed either. So, hello, your order. 1A red pant, 1 coat dry fit, 1 sportswear heritage printer. Delivery, DPD deliveries. Your payment summary, you are paying $122, and for additional services you are paying $10. So total amount you're going to be paying is $132. There's a sale which will expire in 21 hours 30 minutes. Okay. Additional services which you are also subscribed for is Care Plus package, which is also $10. Are you ready to buy? Yeah. Now you can open your eyes. Yeah. So you can see how Yash was far more convincing in trying to sell me because he actually cared about trying to sell the whole thing to me. But when you read this interface, it looks like it does not even care about trying to sell me those clothes. It doesn't understand the
Exactly.
nuances around.
It's like that indifferent shopkeeper where you ask him to, show you that, and he's like, नहीं तुम्हारे size में नहीं है या फिर नहीं है हमारे पास खत्म हो गया. Like, sometimes you sense that indifference in the shopkeeper's attitude. It felt like that. That it's just dha 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 dha. But what compared to Yash did was like he was really in it. He was selling you the entire thing, and he was very much involved in the entire process. And he really genuinely wanted you to have a win-win here. So yeah.
Yeah. And it sounded like Yash's life depended on selling me those clothes.
Yes.
And that's how it is. If you go in any market, if you go to markets in Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, anywhere, in an actual market, the salesman is really eager to try and sell you something. And they try all the tricks of the trade to try and make you do it, how they say something, in what sequence they say something, all that is there. But when we start designing and we start putting UI components, the first thing we start doing is we start thinking in XD, we start thinking in Figma. And along in that process, we completely forget the point that we're trying to make someone do something. How do we influence somebody? How do we make them do something? Whether it's a series of screens or the flow that you're thinking about, or it is just one particular screen itself and the layout with that as well, it's not thought through from that perspective. This one looks good, nice alignment, it's got nice components, the proportions seem to be good, visual hierarchy of things seems to be there as well, but it's not focused towards success, it's not focused towards the KDB and how it should win at the end. So great looking things like this can fail. This is not going to tip the metric on drop-offs on carts in a big way. And you have to understand the psychology behind this. And there's a whole different topic to be discussed separately. Yeah. So you model this real conversation. So, what Yash did to me, and then you have to try and model that conversation in as much a real world context as possible. How would your service actually flow out in the real world? You got to think about that. How somebody is coming in, experiencing it, how they're discovering your that particular page, what are they thinking, why are they clicking on something? You have to imagine that entire thing in that context.
Okay, number 57.
Can I have a decaf cappuccino, please?
You have to pop you on hold while I transfer you to the coffee department.
Hi there, how can I help?
She said she's put me through to the coffee department. I don't quite get
Coffee department, sorry, you got through to the lager department. Give me a minute.
it. No?
Would you like to make an application for some food or drink today? I just need the first line of your address and your mother's maiden name.
What?
I'm just going to pop you on hold while I transfer you to the wine department. Is that okay?
Double Havana 7 and Coke, please.
Oh, blimey, that's completely on my reach. I'll put you on hold for that one. Okay?
You reserve the right to cancel your fish and chips without prior notification, whereas you do not notify us in writing.
Business is important to us.
Hi there, what can I get you? Thank you very much, that's £5.
Cappuccino's £5.
£6, increased charges. Certainly, that'll be £100 of unnecessary charges.
Oh, how much? For a wine and a what?
Yeah, so £6 for the wine, and then the rest is unnecessary charges.
No.
I'm afraid I can't accept your payment at the moment.
I'll get you in a minute. I'm going to pull you over the bar. We both over there having a conversation.
I can put you onto our conversation.
Awful.
Yeah, it was awful, yeah.
And eventually I felt a bit angry and I wanted to give up.
Wherever you go, if you pay for a service and it was bad, you wouldn't go back. The service was absolutely terrible, and I thought I'd never come back again.
So the point of this is reverse modeling. When we build digital experiences and we build a form, a bank form, etc., and without even thinking about how that experience actually should be modeled out, how that experience narrative should be, and we put UI, this is how what people go through. This is a reverse modeling of what banks put people through now in a real world context, and you get a sense of that. So I hope you guys start to see where the problem lies. Now, with an understanding of this kind of conversation flow, etc., you have to get down to crafting the narrative. We It's almost like story writing. What's going to happen first? And boy meets girl in the park. They have a nice conversation. Then they spend some time together. Then they go for a coffee. Then you know they plan for a date later. Then that person goes to office in the morning. Unfortunately, he meets an accident. So all that, the script writing which is done, it actually puts those sequences together, is where you have to now start crafting your experience narrative. This is the point where you get down to paper. You still don't get down to opening XD and Figma. Preferably whiteboards. I love giant whiteboards. In fact, in our office, we have our entire one, in fact, two walls. One much larger wall, 15-foot whiteboard, and then one other one is a 10-foot whiteboard where you can sketch out these things. So you sketch out the storyboard in a storyboard format, how things are going to happen. Yeah. And the micro moments, not just the big blocks that's going to happen. Make out the micro moments of how your story will unfold, and how in that story sequence you are trying to achieve the KDB at the end of it. And this is where you start applying your design science to be able to achieve this entire narrative. How will you use ergonomics? How will you use psychology? How will you use your understanding of user behavior? And then achieve KDBs, which will lead to business KPIs at the end of it. Yeah. So, any questions about this so far, guys?
So, Amber, I have a question, if I may ask.
Okay.
Yeah, so how does this look like? Like, in terms of, let's say, you're working for an organization. Let's say you're working for a bank, and they are now, they want to they want to give a really good digital experience to their customers, and you have identified the. So first of all, I want to understand this in terms of like even the tangible or the logistical aspect. I just want to understand that how does it work out? Like, do you sit with these stakeholders, like from their side, you sit with them, you identify it with them that what the KDBs would be, or do you go out and actually talk to users to identify what their KDBs are, or is it a blended approach where you are doing both? So how does it look like when you are actually doing it?
Yeah. So one of the things which I always advise designers is be business savvy. Don't just be very happy with your current softwares and whatever research and user process you've done. You have to be tremendously business savvy. What that means is you have the ability of understanding business objectives, business vision, business models, business landscape, competitive landscape, and complex concepts like this. So when we start working on a particular area, I would not say problem, I'll say area. Okay. Problem is very specific. So when you start working in a particular area, we start with something called business empathy. We always talked about user empathy. You have to empathize with the business. You have to understand the context of a business, because if you don't understand what's really the context of that business, you can't help them. If you just take requirements from them and start converting them into UI, you miss the point. So we spend enough time in doing that. Sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's a month. We spend time with them to understand what's going on, how the tectonic forces are moving in the market. Because if they're investing money in actually revamping whatever they're building right now, then whatever comes out needs to give them a strategic advantage moving forward, not just move the needle a little bit. Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, and then as part of that, we work with them in terms of what the KDBs are. KDBs are always more business side. You cannot go and ask users what the KDBs are because you're trying to create these behaviors. You're influencing people to do something, and business says, "I want people to do this. That's that's my business model. That's my thing. I want people to get loans from me." People don't want to get loans. If you actually understand personal finance fairly well, you will realize that taking credit of a certain size and scale actually is very bad for your finances longer term. Yeah. So you start with what kind of behaviors, etc., that you want to create for the users, for that business to succeed. And then you combine that with understanding the users in that context. That business context is very key. You understand users in that context and how you may be able to influence them or you may not be able to influence them. That's where your user research as a practice comes in. The user research is not the first thing which comes in there, but user research enables you to then figure out how you're actually going to influence them. For example, you have a higher chance of influencing your close friends in doing something because you know a lot about them. Okay. So that's how the KDBs are structured upfront, and then you work as strategists in helping businesses craft either products, either experiences, either features, which will make those KDBs actually happen for that business. Yeah.
Thanks, Amber.
Any other questions, guys?
So, Karthik is asking actually, can you give us an example where this
Okay.
approach using KDB resulted in better end results?
Absolutely. So, we actually help a lot of companies get up and running. And there was one particular company where they wanted us to get a lot of customers who go to small restaurants to use their payment service. They were making a payment service that is actually applied in restaurants like Haldiram's, etc. Around that. They wanted them to use that. Now, the key desired behavior in that context was people should come and use their service and order from that and then do payments from there, rather than the thing which they were doing typically, where they would go and stand in a line in Haldiram's and then they would go and order from there. So now you understand the key desired behavior you have to focus on, and then you understand the context, that what user is doing in that context and how you have to influence them, and then you devise strategies. So you say, okay, now if I have to get this guy to look at something else which is not a part of the muscle memory, because everyone has learned over time that if you have to go to Haldiram, then you have to order, then you have to pretty much go stand in line there, and that's where you get your food. You look at the menu and you order from there. So maybe even before they enter the store, that's where you catch their eye. You create dissonance, you create interest, whether it's with saturated colors or certain kind of imagery, or there's somebody who is a person over there who catches their interest and gets them to do something. Then what happens next? Then what happened next? Then how do you convince them how this is better than doing something else? How do you build that case and introduce them to a different kind of behavior which leads to the KDB for that company? Right? So what that company is, I'm not in liberty to be able to discuss the name for that. But this is how we work. And the success which they achieve in that is 10x. Okay. As opposed to them coming and say, you know what, I want to make a better payment experience. Can you do that? Can you make the UI for it? Because I might make the UI for them, but there is no thinking done with regards to how to make that behavior happen in the end of it, which means it will be nice looking UI, which won't really create any effect whatsoever at the end. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Ankit, Amber, to what extent you think India is a controlled context in the digital age? I don't entirely understand your question, Ankit. Maybe if you can try simplifying it or rephrasing that. Yeah. And while you do that, let me just finish the last few pieces, and we can come back to the question round for everybody else. So you create your strategy of how your experience is going to flow, and it's going to make a KDB happen at the end of it. This is tremendous value to companies. If you can make this happen, you are a design guru. You can make that happen. And then you start converting that strategy and the experience flow that you thought through into the visual and interaction flow. Why I'm saying visual interaction flow and not just UI, because to make it happen like a movie director, you should not be limited to just the UI ready-made components. You should be able to craft it like an animation film, where objects, images, text, etc. flow in a certain sequence to be able to get someone to do a certain behavior. Right? So if you go back to the example of the way Yash was selling the shopping cart, and now we have to convert that into an animated sequence, which pretty much achieves the effect that Yash would like to use as part of his sales process. That is how you should think about crafting the visual interaction flow experience, and not just immediately get down to transferring it to classical UI components. So I've tried to show you an example that I could find, which is closer to that, where everything is not the UI boxes, etc. But there is some sense of that. So 3 key takeaways, guys, in my mind on that is UX is not just about UI, of course, and also it's not just about primarily being user-centric. You're not problem solving. You're not about writing problem statements. It's about actually influencing behavior. How do you influence behavior and how you make things happen? Number 2, if you want that to work well, you want successful products and designs to go out, start identifying key desired behaviors that you want to happen. If you can make them happen, no better value a designer can provide in that context. And number 3 is, in context of those key desired behaviors, craft experience narratives. Wait before you jump to that software, Figma, XD, whatever else you're using, and you start building the experiences. Wait for it, because they have a certain way that they influence your ability of being able to think. Wait for it. Construct your thought, your strategy, your experience first, and then create how that is going to be modeled like a movie. Imagine maybe the closest is an animation movie, like an animation movie that is going to flow and make that KDB happen at the end of it. All right. Okay, so Jagrit, that's pretty much it. Guys, thank you for listening. Before we get down to questions, 2 key things. We are persistently and consistently hiring. And if you guys are looking to work with us, if you're looking to learn some of these techniques, we have a very strong culture, which is you have deep learning while you work. We have a lot of internal master classes. We have things that we run, which maybe Yash can talk more about that. And that is the kind of culture we really enjoy, for all of us to push each other and grow there. So if you are looking for something where this is the kind of culture which appeals to you, then join us. We have started creating content around our approach, our learning in building products for quite a few years across all kind of companies. And if you're looking to get some of that content and be connected with us, then these are the coordinates for being in touch with us, whether it's WhatsApp, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Medium. All right. So, Jagrati, let me stop at this point. If the other questions, I'm happy to answer.
Great. Thank you so much, Amber. Guys, you can take a screenshot, or if you want, I'll share it in the description as well after this call. But thank you so much, Amber. So, guys, please, Amber is here with us for a bit. So, if you have any questions, please write them in the comments. Amber, I have a question which I want to ask, and I think probably it will help others as well. So, I know you work with HFI, and of course, it's a very, it's HCI plus it's very heavily like you were doing a lot of research. You also, I think you also created a lot of outreach and these education programs for the organization, and then you started your own consulting, right? And I just want to know that from what you used to do when you were at HFI or even prior to that, and from now when you're running on your own business, how has your understanding of UX evolved? Like, is there a difference? What have been your key takeaways or things that you wish you knew when you were starting out? So, is there anything from there that you would like to share? How has it evolved for you over time?
Fantastic question, Jagrati. And let me try and do justice to all companies in that way. HFI, fantastic time with the team there, very close relationships with the founders, and we worked on a lot of adventures together, etc. Had great amount of learning and content around design science and the process and how you should do that, how you should conduct research, different kinds of research. In fact, when I was running the COA program, etc., and then the training, which was in India, Middle East, and South Africa regions. So lot of the design science and the process is what we used to teach at that point. In fact, I saw some of the names in the chat today, and I recognized some of the people from previous courses that I've taught as well. Now, what changed after HFI? So when I left HFI and I started working with product companies themselves, there is a on-the-ground learning for what works and a very strong pressure to succeed. With product companies, ideation doesn't matter. You have to make the metric go up and down. You have to make success happen. And if you don't do that, companies can shut down before you know, or face serious financial harm. So you have to be able to push the needle there. And my learning with both the kind of spheres, whether from a consulting point of sphere to an actual product company's point of sphere, has been tremendous. But working with the product companies made me realize that there has to be an evolution of the gospel of how we do things. We cannot take what is being crafted by Nielsen Norman or your Alan Cooper for granted and assume that it's the Bible for the rest of humanity forever. That's impossible. We have to be able to push the philosophy ahead. And why does it always have to come from white countries? Why cannot come from a country like ours? Because we are doing some of the biggest innovations in digital technology, etc., across the world. Why can't the philosophy and gospel actually come from our country as well? And I strongly believe that. Which also led to me the fact that we have to start questioning some of these things. I remember I used to run projects which actually had 2 or 3 months of research inbuilt into the project. 3 months of research, 300 users, very big reports, and you're processing that.
Yeah.
And what I realized at the end of it, when you look at product companies, by the time you're doing 3 months of research, that product is gone. Somebody else has built something else. The market has moved on. the speed, the design process, the way it's built out, it's not design understanding how the market has changed. If 6 months a company starts and it gets the sunrise and sunset of the company happens 6 months, the way you build products has to be thought differently. And you have to be focused on creating behaviors. Companies decide upon that. If they can get a behavior, something becomes viral, they achieve a certain scale, then they become successful. And your philosophy around that has to be changed. Your methodology of conducting research has to change. In fact, my stint at PayU, we recrafted the methodology of how to conduct research, such that it actually supports the product throughout the year, and not just at giant chunks that you do around there. But that's a whole separate topic. So a lot of learning across my career, a lot of learning from different contexts, a lot of learning from hands-on building things, the hands-on building products, which comes together. And this is my journey, this is my philosophy, etc. But I strongly believe that there are a lot of great minds from India which now need to contribute towards pushing the thinking around how to build products forward. Your classical UX
Absolutely.
process doesn't have to be true forever, guys. You can do more.
That's true. Absolutely. Also, Amber, like, I also do a lot of portfolio reviews, and what I see is that um each portfolio looks the same. It's just the copy paste of all those converge, diverge, or either there is this empathy phase. And exactly what you said. My question is, how do you keep empathy just for a phase? Like, what happens after that? Like, do you stop empathizing with your users, or are they not important after the stage? So what do you do then? And literally, there's no way, as you said, at PayU, I have friends at PayU as well, and yes, it has to be built throughout the entire journey. It can't be just a one time thing. So Amber, one more question. So at them, you say that you're always hiring. I know Yash really well, and I've actually seen him evolving a lot. I know he has great mentors there. Just curious, how do you, like, what do you see when somebody is applying? What are the things that you look for in the portfolio or in the person themselves? Like, what are the things that you're looking for?
The biggest thing I would say we look for, Jagrati, is the potential.
Mm-hmm.
And the potential is not so much about how your portfolio looks, how well you know Figma, XD, etc. But it's the potential of actually doing critical thought with our teams and understand some of the concepts that we were talking about. Yeah, because we'll be talking about tough concepts, we'll be challenging um, thought there. If you will not be able to grasp what we're talking about or what we are challenging, or if at the speed that we go at, then you will struggle. Right? So having that potential is more important. We don't care about your design education, we don't care about the degrees. We have hired people from banking backgrounds, we have hired people from auditing backgrounds, we have hired people from computer science backgrounds, etc. In fact, besides me and my expensive design degrees, nobody else in the company actually has that. Because the design doesn't come from a school, guy. Design comes from your bent of mind, the way you look at things. Parsons, NID, all that stamps on you doesn't really matter. If you have the acumen and you have the centered thinking that we look for very often, then you will be able to have the kind of conversation with us and create disruption.
That's amazing. Amber, there are no questions coming in, but I do have a last question from my side, and probably it will be the last for this session. Um,
Okay.
what has been like your biggest, I would say, biggest mistake? Like, there are like no mistakes are, they always teach you something, but for you, what's been like that one way where you were like, oh shit, this is how it was? Or maybe in the hindsight, you realize, like, mistakes usually in hindsight they make sense, but when the shit gets like shittier, you can't just really control it. So was there any moment where you felt that, oh, I did screwed up like really bad, and maybe you learned from there? So was there anything like that, anything that you learned from and evolved? So yeah.
Many times, to believe in yourself that you are this perfect, amazing designer, and everything which comes out of you is gold is absolute stupidity. There are many times that you would have worked on projects in the past, etc., and built something which failed monumentally because your beliefs on how it should be built were incorrect. And my only regret along this path would have been that I did not start challenging the conventions earlier. I hope that makes sense.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
start
So yeah,
challenging
so
the conventions earlier, and you break the paradigm of how something has to be approached. You build amazing innovation.
that's amazing. It's amazing. Yes, Amber, that was it from my side. I can definitely have like this conversation can go on and on, but I know you have butter chicken and roti waiting for you. Your parathas are waiting for you. So that's it for today. Thank you so much, everyone who tuned in today, and it was such a pleasure talking to you, Amber. I'm hopeful that we'll do this more often. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jagrati. Thank you, Yash, for organizing this. And wonderful to interact with all of you guys. And Jagrati and I have been talking about that. I always, like face-to-face interactions in the same physical space. So, maybe you'll be organizing one of those soon, and I would love to meet you guys in person.
Yes. Thank you so much, Amber. Have a great
Yeah.
weekend
All right,
ahead.
guys.
Bye.
You too. You too. Enjoy, guys. Enjoy your weekend. Take care. Bye bye.